Hello, guys, gals, and anyone who identifies otherwise, and welcome back to the Table of Terror. If you're new, hi, welcome. My name is Kamiko. You can call me Miko if you'd like, and I am the creator and host of the Table of Terror podcast. If you've read the title, you will probably know what I'm talking about in this episode already, but I'm going to tell you because that's what podcasts are, right? People telling other people things. Anyway, today I have a couple friends and family members whose stories I have been allowed to share. Look, this is a really long-winded way of saying that I'm going to share some other people's paranormal experiences. Really quick disclaimer, I am not saying that I believe or disbelieve that any of these paranormal accounts are real, but I will say that I treat everyone's experiences as if they are valid, because they are. So with that being said, I'm going to read a series of Instagram messages that a former coworker and friend sent me. So this is what Maria said. First of all, she started out all caps. Love the enthusiasm. It says, "I don't know if this is paranormal or anything, but it's creepy and worth a shot. Okay, here it goes. Earlier this summer, I went to Texas to visit my friend and her family and gang. They were in the middle of moving, and their guest bedroom was full of boxes, so I had to sleep on an air mattress for the first 2 nights in the living room. I woke up in the middle of the first night because the mattress had deflated and my back began to hurt. I was basically sleeping on the floor, and I already have back problems, so I grabbed the blankets and various pillows and threw them onto their couch to sleep on it instead." And then she continues. It says, "I woke up again after some time and saw a figure, standing in front of the TV facing me." That sounds terrifying. But she says, "I honestly thought it was my friend, maybe looking for me since I wasn't on the mattress anymore. It gets incredibly dark in the apartment. I waited a couple seconds for my eyes to adjust to the dark, but the figure remained a shadow. And they kept staring." Ooh, Maria, I don't like this at all. "I eventually just fell back asleep." I don't think I could do that. Anyway, eventually I just fell back asleep, and the next morning I asked my friend if she went into the living room to see how I was doing or something. But she hadn't. I couldn't have been dreaming. It says I could have been dreaming, but it felt too real. Laugh my ass off. I know I was awake. After that night, the closet door in their hallway began opening on its own at random times of the day. She said it was probably her cats, but they were nowhere near the door. Why? Don't blame the cats. The poor cats. Those honeys just need to be cutes, not scapegoats for ghosts. Anyway, she said that she's ruled out sleep paralysis because, quote, "I've only had it twice, and it only happens when I fall asleep on my back. I slept on my right side." So, in response to this series of messages, I sent the wide-eyed, blushing, shocked emoji. And she responded, she said, all caps, "LOL." And then she also said, "I often try to rationalize what happens and tell myself it's all in my head, but stuff like that has already happened a good number of times." And I think that is awesome, but also terrifying. So, quick shout out to Maria. Thank you so much for letting me share this story of your actual real life scary non-sleep paralysis entity, shadow figure. I don't know what to call it, but thank you for letting me share, and I hope that if you're listening to this, that you are having a fantastic day. Quick side note and an apology: if you hear chirping in the background, it's probably crickets. I have live crickets that I feed to my bearded dragon. His name is Norbert, and he basically rules my Instagram account, so if you want to go see that, check the links that are in the description / show notes, all that. What I do appreciate about Maria's messages is that she has already ruled out sleep paralysis for herself, because I know that shadow figures are a thing that people see a lot when experience sleep paralysis. Like it's a heavily documented thing that people see is shadow figures. So I appreciate that bit of debunking that she's already done. Obviously, I can't say for sure if there was a ghost or a spirit in that house, but it definitely doesn't sound like a nice thing to wake up to. Okay, so moving on from Maria. Thank you again, Maria. I have two more stories to share. One is something that I'm going to read, like Maria's. It's from my aunt, and the other is a voice message that one of my high school, middle school, just school friends sent me not too long ago. So first, I'm going to jump into my auntie's story. The email that she sent me just says, freaky story. So, my aunt's name is Janine. She's going to mention her brother, Mark. And I'm going to hop right in and read what she sent me. So she said, Mark and I were about 6 and 11 years old. My parents took us to visit my weird Aunt Fita, my mom's father's cousin. Fita lived in Kingman, Arizona, a stronghold for the biggest racists on the planet, and probably a Trump haven today. That's a quote. Let's not get into politics here, guys. But first, a little backstory. Aunt Fita and her husband, Harold, a really nice guy, don't know how he put up with her, had a nasty dog named Duchess. My aunt used to bake chicken and fancy vegetables for the dog, cut it up, and hand feed it to that smelly, waddling flea bag. The dog was a bitey, snappy Heinz 57, maybe a fucked up Sheltie mix, and my aunt insisted on taking her everywhere. All caps. They brought the dog to our house when I was about 3 years old, and that shithead bit me. But my aunt said it was my fault for trying to touch her because the dog didn't like children, and I should have known better. My mom never liked dogs inside the house, so when my fat aunt blasted through the front door with her ugly mutt and announced that the dog was staying with her inside the house, my parents didn't feel they could say anything. But I digress. That was a really big offshoot, Auntie. Where was I? Aha. My uncle, Fita's husband, had died about 6 months before our visit. So at the beginning she said she and her brother were in Arizona visiting this aunt. So Fita's husband died 6 months before our visit. So our being there was more of a sympathy visit, but nonetheless, we would stay the night in her trailer house in the middle of the desert. The closest neighbor was about a hard baseball's throw from her place. I'm talking a professional arms throw. Mom and Dad tucked Mark and myself into our sleeping bags on the living room floor and went to sleep in the extra bedroom. My aunt was already sawing logs in her own room. Mark and I had just started to doze off when we heard the kitchen door close hard, and shuffling footsteps of a grown man, and, get this, listen, a second set of footsteps that sounded like a dog's feet with overgrown nails clicking on the floor beside the heavy, dragging footsteps. The smell of tobacco wafting through a small living room. So, grown man's shuffling footsteps, the sounds of dogs' feet walking around as well, and the smell of tobacco. It says, "We lay there wide-eyed and petrified because we couldn't see anyone. We could only hear the footsteps and smell the cigarette smoke. Both sets of footsteps got louder and louder as they approached us, and then turned abruptly in front of us and towards the bedrooms. Mark and I sat straight up, jumped into each other's arms like two horrified little monkeys, and bolted to my parents' room to report what we had just heard, felt, smelled. It seems Duchess and my uncle never got the memo that they were dead and continued to take their nightly walks so he could smoke a cigarette before coming back home to go to sleep. Freaky! Okay, well, thank you so much, Auntie. Clearly, you can see that she has a sense of humor and has some political opinions, but hey, who doesn't? The thing that I think I appreciate most about this haunting / experience is that there were so many sensory things about this one entity. She heard something, saw something, or not saw rather, but she heard and smelled something, and they coincided. Two different sounds, one smell, but it created one picture that was not visible, obviously, because ghosts are not always visible, but like it's a really interesting thing that all of this plays together, which would lead me to believe that it is like that it happened, that, you know, he and the dog are still hanging around going for their walks. Okay, so to wrap up this little mini episode, I am going to close it out with a voice message that one of my friends, Megan, sent me when I first announced on my personal Instagram that I was going to be doing a horror / paranormal themed podcast. So I've known Megan for a long time. I met her when I was in 7th grade. So I was 12, turning 13, and I just turned 24, so you can do the math. Over 10 years I've known her. And I never knew about this story until she hit me up on Instagram. So I'm going to just insert the audio clip that she sent me so that you guys can hear what she has to say for herself.
Okay, so I wanted to submit my own scary story to your podcast, and to this day, this is the freakiest thing that has ever happened to me, like in my whole 23 years of existence on this earth. So it starts off with, I was 19 years old, and at the time I was dating someone, and I was living with my paternal grandmother, who was a very strict lady. Did not allow overnight guests, did not allow guests in general. She lived like a hermit, and I was not allowed to have any of my friends or my boyfriend over at the time. So this guy I was dating persuaded me into going night swimming because we had a pool in our backyard. And I was kind of hesitant at first because I didn't want to get in trouble, but then I was like, you know what, screw it, we'll just be really, really quiet, and, you know, we will just not wake her up. That was the goal of the night, just don't wake up Grandma. So we're swimming, we're having a good time, we're splashing quietly, we're being super silent, and all of a sudden, he stops mid-conversation, and he locked eyes with something, and I thought he was playing around because we'd just seen a scary earlier that night, so I'm like, oh my god, he's pulling my leg, like he's trying to freak me out, because he had a tendency to tease me a lot, hence why we're no longer together, but among other reasons, but that's for a different podcast and story. Anyways, he locked eyes with something, and I kept nudging him, like, hey, like, what are you staring at, like, shorter, like it was like almost like he was like hyperventilating a little bit. And so I had turned and followed his eyes into the same direction of which he was staring, and I saw the freakiest shadow figure ever. It literally looked hunched, and it wasn't a creature by any means. I never thought it was like a demon or anything, but it definitely wasn't alive. And I thought, oh my god, like, am I looking at, like, is there someone in my, like, backyard? Did someone sneak in? And so I called out to it, and it did nothing. It just kept staring at my boyfriend at the time. And I kept calling out to it, and at that point, I didn't care if my grandma heard me, because it was starting to freak me out. It was like this hunched over figure, and it looked like it had something in its hand. And I couldn't tell if it was like a cane or what it was. It looks like something really long in their hand. I almost said his. In their hand. And so I got out of the pool, and I grabbed a towel and wrapped it around me, and I went over with a flashlight on my phone. Couldn't see it. And I said, okay, well, maybe the light freaked it out. Like, I don't know. So we quickly got out of the pool, got dressed, and I sent him home. So I was about to go to bed, but then I realized that I forgot to turn off the heater in my pool. So I went back outside to turn the heater off when I felt myself being pushed. And I quickly looked around, and I saw footprints. Literally footprints. I'm not even kidding. And it just was gone. And these footprints, like, they look like bare feet. And so, and mind you, also, I was wearing flip-flops, so I knew it wasn't me. The next morning, I woke up, I tried looking outside, footprints were not there anymore. So, call it what you will. You know, I've always told people this, and half the responses were, you must have been dreaming or sleepwalking at that point when you went out to go turn off the heater. Or they think, oh my god, like, this, you know, you probably, like, left footprints there earlier or something and you just got freaked out. But it doesn't explain why I had freaked my boyfriend out earlier during that night, why we both saw that thing, because I asked him, what did you see? And he described the exact same thing back to me. And now I'm 23. This happened to me when I was 19. I'm 23. I haven't seen it since. I moved out of that house, and now I live in a completely different city. So I've always thought maybe it was something that was haunting that house. I don't know. But the moral of this story is, don't go night swimming when your grandma tells you not to. And also, don't listen to your boyfriend either. I'm kidding about the last part. But I hope you guys enjoyed my freaky story, and you guys can always reach out to me if you have any more questions about what happened to me. This was 100% real. I have even written a story about it. I'm working on, like, developing it into something. I don't know yet. But I hope you guys enjoyed it, and have a freaky day.
Okay. So, the reason that I chose this to be the last story here, is because I love it so much, like, irrationally. I just think that it's so compelling when you have some sort of paranormal phenomenon that is seen by more than one person all at the same time, and they describe the same thing. Because it adds automatic validity to both the person experiencing it and the other person that's with them. So that can be really gratifying in and of itself. But when she says that she came back outside to turn everything off and she saw bare footprints, at first I was like, bear as in the big growly animal, or bear as in B-A-R-E, like bare feet. But then she goes on to say that And I only caught it this time that I listened to this. I've listened to this so many times, you guys. But this time around, it made sense that it was bare feet because she said that she had sandals on when she went back outside, and that piece of context leads me to believe that she was talking bare feet in the sense of like a humanoid footprint that was, marked around the area. Like something that was kind of human had been walking around, which is terrifying because if this was an actual person, that's scary. If it was something, some sort of cryptid or creature, that's also terrifying. If it was some sort of spirit that manifested enough to leave footprints, it's also scary. There is no, nice explanation for what she says that she saw and what her boyfriend at the time saw. And I appreciate that she also sent this as a voice message because Megan has always been a really good storyteller. So at the end there, she did say that you guys could reach out to her if you had any more questions about her experience. I will go ahead and double check with her. If she's still cool with it, I will go ahead and link her information on my Instagram and my Twitter so that you guys can go look her up and talk to her and show her some love if you want to. Again, I've known her for over a decade. She's a great person. Megs, if you're listening to this, I love you. I hope you're well. And hey, if you have any more creepy, scary stories, doesn't matter if it's a ghost or not, I would love to hear it. Also, I think it's really awesome that she's written about it, got it down on paper, and that she wants to do something with it, because I think this would make such a good, short movie or something like that. I just think it's really cool. So that is it for this storytelling little mini episode. I am going to do my best to release podcast episodes every week, and I really, really want to encourage you to send in your stories to me. You can reach me on social media. You can send an email through for the podcast. You can do any number of things, write it down, say it out loud, however you want to share your story with me so that I can pass it along to other people. Feel free to do so. And now that I've said that, I should probably tell you how you can find me and the podcast online. So on Instagram and Twitter, you can find the podcast at Table of Terror with an underscore at the end. And my personal Instagram and Twitter are at Miko Rios. That's MEK as in King, O, and then my last name, RIOS. Come say hi to me. Come pop in and check out the podcast's pages. I love when people come say hi. And again, please, please, please consider sharing your stories with both myself and everyone who is listening, because I think it's really cool and I want this to be a safe space for people to share what they've experienced, how they feel about it, what's going on. And I think that this podcast could be something really special if we all help out. And if you want to help out monetarily, we do have a Patreon for this podcast. All you have to do is go to patreon.com/tableofterrorpod. You can find us. If you would like to support us monetarily, there are perks to that. You can find all the information on the Patreon page. Having said all of that, I'm not going to hold your ears hostage for very much longer. What I would like to do is a quick sign off and say that I hope you're all well. I hope that you enjoyed this episode. Make sure that if you do, that you subscribe / review and say nice things with whatever podcatcher app that you are listening to this on. And I hope you have a great rest of your day, whatever time it is when you're seeing this. And don't forget to drink some water because it's really good for your body. Okay, bye!